James Bear. I'm in North Texas, the Decatur area, and 39 years old, about to turn 40.
And what do you do for a living, James?
Well, I'm a server at Chili's, but I also have a business on the side that I'm trying to build up right now.
And what is that business?
Dragons and doodads. We do 3D printing, pyrography, sublimation stuff like mugs and signs and whatnot.
Nice. Okay. And so what does your income look like on the server side? And what's your income look like on the side business?
The income on the server side translates to right around $1,000 a week, roughly, usually a little less than that. The other business, we're still kind of in the launch phase. Like we're still trying to prepare everything before we release the hounds, if you will.
Okay. Is there any revenue on the side business side right now, or is it all just you're funneling money to get it off the ground?
It's a lot of money going out, not a whole lot coming in, kind of funding what's going to happen in the future.
Okay. And how much have you invested into it to date, would you say?
Probably $3,000 into the business.
$3,000 into the business. Okay. And so let's talk about, I guess, both things. How long have you been a server and how long have you been working on this business for?
Well, I guess this business, we've been working on it for 2 years now, trying to get something off the ground. And it's been a learning process throughout the whole thing, trying to figure out what we actually want to do and what we wanted to market in the end. And we're finally focusing in on something. Whereas the server side, well, I've done that off and on for 20 years, half blue collar side and half, food and beverage side. And it seems to be okay right now. It's paying our bills and keeping the business afloat for the moment.
Okay. And how would you kind of rate your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's a struggle. I'm going to have to say the struggle is real, probably about a 7.
A 7? A 7 doesn't really sound like a struggle. 7's you're above average, doing pretty good.
10 is I'm about to go to jail because of debt for whatever reason.
Well, no, 10 is like amazing. 1 is horrible.
Okay, 1 is horrible. Well, in that case, it's more like a 2 or a 3.
Okay. 2 or 3.
Grinding right now, trying to get it done.
Okay. And so let's talk about current assets and debts then. So in front of me, it looks like current assets, you said current value of a home, $15,000, and you live in an RV?
Correct.
Okay. So the RV is worth about $15,000, and you have a car as well that's about $1,300?
Yeah, I bought it for 10 a few years ago, but, how stuff depreciates.
What type of vehicle is it?
It's a 07 Honda Pilot.
Okay. And non-retirement accounts, you put $175. What is that invested into?
Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken. It's just, I do it every once in a while, just to kind of play around. Usually what happens is I get in a bit of trouble and I need some quick money and I sell it. It's kind of something that sits there every once in a while.
Okay. And then in your bank account, it looks like the end last statement period about $502. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. And then on the debt side, the only debt I see, it looks like, is the RV for $13,578. Is that correct?
That's correct.
No student loans, no credit cards?
Nope, no student loans.
No car loans?
Nope. I've got the car paid off. I'm just trying to reduce the amount of debt so that it doesn't take as much money for me to live, so to speak.
Okay, so heck, I mean, at first glance, you're doing better than most Americans because you don't have credit card debt, you don't have student loans, you don't have a car loan. The only debt you have is, I guess, your house. It's an RV, which I guess is still a depreciating asset, but
yeah,
but you don't have a ton of overhead or credit card payments or personal loan payments, which is good. So total assets, $16,991. Total debt, $13,578, which puts your net worth at just over $3,400. Have you ever calculated net worth before?
No, I can't say that I have. I never really saw a need to, really.
So a lot of people don't track their net worth, but I personally enjoy doing that. I think it's good because you get to see progress and you get to see when you take action on trying to build wealth, and you get to see that progress and that graph go up and up over time. And it's kind of like anything, whether you're a professional athlete, whether you're an artist, whether you're working in data, whatever it is, that if you track your progress and you see progress, you get more excited about it and you'll see better results and continue results if you track it. So if you don't track something, then it's hard to know if you're going in the right direction.
I can see the good reasoning in that. That's definitely something useful now. Obviously, now that I'm older and I understand things better.
So awesome. Well, in the positive, which is good in terms of net worth, but being 39 years old, if we're going towards Social Security retirement age 67, so you got 28 years left, we got to start making progress on the retirement side of things. Otherwise, hey, who knows what Social Security is going to look like 30 years from now? Who knows what you're going to get? Who knows if it's going to be here? So you got to start figuring out how do you save money so that you can protect yourself in the long term as well. So
There's a bit of that going on in the background too that we've been plotting and planning. I do want to set up some sort of retirement plan for my kids before I worry about myself, to be honest.
why would you do that? Why would you try to take care of your kids before yourself? Because if you don't take care of yourself and you hit retirement age, you don't have any money, you're just been going to them for money.
I'd rather not have to worry about them later on.
But would it not be better for you to educate yourself about money, learn and start setting yourself up for success, and then you can teach them because they're young and help them along their journey? I think the best thing you do to help your children is help them learn about finances because they've got, how old are they right now?
13, 15, and 15.
Okay, so they got 50 years until retirement age. And so you've got 30 years. So you got 20 less years. So if you start teaching about finances now, then guess what? By the time they're 65, they're going to be set for life because you've instilled those principles in them. But you got to take care of yourself first. Kind of like if you're putting your mask on first on an airplane, then you can help them. But if you start putting their mask on, then you're going to die trying to put their mask on and then yours on. And that's not going to be a good situation for the family.
You make a valid argument. What if we did it at the same time? I've got a son that's about to want to start working, so we could do it at the same time. We do it together.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. Is if he starts working, then guess what? You're going to teach him what a Roth IRA is, and you're going to invest in a Roth IRA yourself, and you're going to help him invest his hard-earned money into a Roth IRA himself, which will set him up for success.
I'd also want to setting up some sort of trust eventually that we all pour money into.
We'll talk more about the investing side of things at the end of this. Trusts, they're very complex at times, and I don't think it's necessarily needed right now. I think one of the best things you do is set up like a Roth IRA, but we'll talk more about investing in a little bit as well. But that was just some things for us to talk about is how do you help yourself, but also how do you help your kids along the journey. So, but before we dive into kind of your current monthly expenses and budget, I want to talk about you and understand a little more about you. So where are you from and what was your childhood like growing up?
Well, I'm from a small town in southwest Louisiana named Sulphur. We grew up pretty poor. I was raised on beans and rice, the occasional piece of sausage in there, it's just how it was in the 80s and 90s.
And so what did your parents do for a living?
For a while, my dad was an aircraft mechanic and my mom worked at the post office.
Okay. And did they ever talk to you about money growing up?
Well, my dad must have told me about Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 100,000 times. And I've read the book. It's a good book. I actually read it twice in the last 2 years, trying to get myself caught up in a better way of understanding money. I don't want to go towards real estate side like he suggests because I just don't have a heart for it. It doesn't drive me. If you're going to do something, you might as well be driven by it too, right?
Do you like reading?
Yeah, well, listening to audiobooks mostly.
Another one I'd suggest is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I enjoy his book a lot. I've read it a couple of times, but he's another one in the personal finance space and New York seller, best-selling author, and has some good stuff about it too.
I think I have that one on my wish list, actually.
Definitely one to look at, and I'll send you his blog and podcast. He's got a bunch of good stuff out there. So growing up, parents talked to you about Rich Dad, Poor Dad a lot. What did you think are some of the most important financial lessons you kind of learned from them?
To be honest, I didn't want to pay that much attention. I was too interested in girls, I guess.
At least you're honest.
As soon as I turned 18, I just wanted to get the hell out of where I was. I left for the Navy. Never paid any of my dad's lessons, any of mine. Got myself in debt. Got myself out of debt a couple of times.
So let's talk about that. What kind of debt did you take on and pay off over your life?
A couple of cars.
How's it feel not having a car payment now?
It feels amazing, actually. Like I can rest easy. Like, hey, anything happens to that car, I just got to pay the thing to fix the car, and that's it. No more worrying. Just insurance.
Are you ever enticed to get another car loan again?
Occasionally.
Because you want a nice new car?
Yeah, it's tempting at times, but then I'm like, wait, I don't have a car note, so why would I want to do that anymore?
See, that's I think the attitude most people should have. I'm personally not a fan of car loans because it's just a guaranteed payment you're going to have, and if you keep upgrading every 5 years or 3 years, then you'll just always have a car payment forever. Instead of, hey, let's use that money for investing or for fun or something that's more enjoyable in life or saving or for your kids. I'm personally anti-car loan because it just people spend too much money and overextend themselves, especially when they get car loans. So
you look at it, you go buy a brand new car. The moment you drive it off the lot, you just lost $10,000 or $5,000.
Heck, with some of the prices of cars these days, you're losing $10,000 or $20,000.
Yeah, possibly. I I can't justify buying a brand new car with that kind of loss immediately. I'll buy a used car or an old car any day. Hell, if I do debate about buying a car, it would be one with a carburetor. That way, I could fix it on the side of the road if I needed to.
There you go. So let's talk about then your current budget you sent over. So you said net income about $4,500 a month. You put your rent/mortgage was $1,117. So you have your mortgage for your RV, which is $517 a month. And then you pay for parking somewhere or utilities, or what is that?
The lot rent that covers the place where the camper sits, the electricity, and the sewage.
Okay. And the $300 in utilities, and you said maintenance $40. So your total home expenditure is about $1,465. On an auto transport between RV and car insurance, about $200 and $80 in gas. Does the RV move user or not? Typically, you just use it. You live there and then you drive the car around everywhere.
I drive the car around everywhere. That's it.
And then groceries $350 a month. So your total necessities $2,095. We've got subscriptions $85, eating out $210, entertainment $150, gifts $100, health and fitness $150, shopping $300, pet $50, travel $200, and total fund money is $1,245, which brings you a grand total of $3,340 a month in living expenses. Does that sound about right?
It's roughly right. Sometimes it goes a little more than that, depending on whether or not we have kids, both of our kids here, because one goes back and forth to Louisiana every month.
Okay. So let's talk about your current budgeting process then. Do you track your expenses? Do you know how much money you're spending every single month, or what does that process look like right now?
I roll with the flow, actually, to be honest with you. So as a server, I get paid daily. So I just have to worry about, okay, what big bill is coming up this month or this week. I don't have a big bill this week. Okay, well, we're going to put aside this much for that and that much for this and whatever else. That's what we live on. If I have a big bill coming up, I know I need to set aside $600 for the lot rent, or I need to set aside $517 for the RV note. Play it week by week.
Okay. So that has gotten you where you are right now, but I think to get to a spot where you can live more comfortably, you can start building wealth, you can start saving, it's important to start tracking your expenses, knowing how much you spend on different things. I'm a big fan of using an app called Copilot, but that helps me categorize stuff because you put on here, for example, you spent $350 on groceries, but it could actually be $450 or it could be $500. If you don't actually track and you see a lot like $50 transactions or $30 transactions, you might not think it's much money, but those add up a lot over time. And when you go through a bank statement and you see 3, 4, 5, 6 pages worth of documents and you see a lot of small transactions, you don't really understand how much those add up to be in each category unless you add it all up, and doing that on spreadsheets or doing that on a bank statement is difficult to do. So having a tool, spreadsheet to do that just helps categorize stuff and see the overarching picture versus just trying to guess off the top of your head. So that's probably the first suggestion I have, is making sure that you're categorizing stuff on the category basis like I sent you, or you can have different buckets too. That's probably one area you definitely need to improve so you can understand where your money's going.
That's definitely worth the experiment. I'm willing to look into.
So looking at your statement that you sent over, it says you had about $3,600 deposited in your bank account during this statement period. So it looks like the income was a little bit lower than the projected $4,500. And then you spent $3,300 roughly during that statement period.
Roughly.
So, through looking at the different stuff, I see like the lot rent on here. I see gas and drinks, buying health supplements off TikTok Shop, which I haven't heard people buying health supplements on TikTok Shop before. And so what right now, I guess, on the investment retirement side, what is your current plan for retirement plan? Do you have a retirement plan at all? Have you even thought about that?
It's kind of sort of not really thought about. It's an idea. Some about kind of setting up one of those trusts based on corporations, S Corp, and all that stuff. A structured trust fund, basically. And a life insurance policy? I don't remember how that works.
So we'll touch on a few things. One, insurance. Do term life insurance. Don't do whole life insurance policies. I'll send you some articles on it, but basically whole life insurance policies are sold you by salesmen because they make a fat commission off of it, and you're better off getting term life insurance policies because they're cheaper. The benefit is for when you die. If you die prematurely, then it helps take care of loved ones that depend on you. When whole life insurance is sold you as an investment, it's called insurance. It's not called it's not called whole life investment. It's called whole life insurance. So whenever someone sells you insurance as an investment vehicle, it's because they're making money off of it. And in my opinion, and countless other people, you're 10 times better off doing term life insurance policies and investing the rest in your Roth IRA or just in a taxable brokerage account. So I'll send you some stuff on that. On the retirement plan stuff, trust can be set up and be done. I think initially the best course of action is if you have a 401k at work, if you have Roth IRA, set up Roth IRA, and then taxable brokerage accounts. I think trust can work after certain milestones or wealth levels, but setting up a trust right now, when I'd say you have to be multi-millionaire to be able to do that, or should in a spot to do that, I think it's a little bit premature, because with different laws and rules out there, you can gift up to like $12 million to a child tax-free. So you don't really have to worry about the tax benefits of those unless you're kind of over that threshold. So I think, especially where you're at right now, I wouldn't worry about trust. I'd be worrying about if you have a 401k at work. I don't know if you get that or not. Do you get a 401k through your work?
I don't have one through Chili's yet.
Does Chili's offer a 401k for servers?
Yes, they do.
And do you know what they match?
I can't recall what they match.
That's something you definitely need to look at, because that's free money right there. If they offer, say, a 5% match, you put in $500, because we'll just call it 5%. That's your 5% in theory. Then you get a free $500 invest in your 401k, and that money will compound until you're 60 years old and can withdraw it. So definitely do a match there. Second thing, Roth IRA is definitely what you should be doing too, because you can put in this year $7,000 and it can grow tax free. So this is money you've already paid taxes on, and you can put in money every single month into it every single year and let it grow over time. And so basically, being 39 right now, I'll just start the age at 40, and this will go to 67. If you contribute and max out your Roth IRA every single year, between now and when you're 67, you'll contribute about $188,000 to it. But it should grow to over $557,000. So that is $370,000 worth of growth basically over the next 28 years if you just max out your Roth IRA every single year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's investing in index funds inside your Roth IRA at a 7% rate of return. If you achieved a 10% rate of return, then that'd be $957,000. But I like estimating a 7% rate of return to account for inflation as well with it. But that's something that I would definitely suggest you start doing, because time is on your side of that. And that's $557 you don't have to pay taxes on again, because you've already paid taxes going into it. And that means when you take that money out, you don't pay any more taxes on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so Roth IRA would be the next thing I'd be figuring out after the 401k. And then after that, a taxable brokerage account. Are you familiar with what index funds are?
Somewhat. The words elude me at the moment, but I think I have a general understanding.
So index funds, think of it as a basket of stocks. So think you have a big basket of stocks that you own bits and pieces of 500, 1,000, however many different businesses that index fund tracks or follows. But basically, you own bits and pieces of different companies. Like the S&P 500, you can get an S&P 500 index fund, and it owns bits and pieces of the top 500 companies in America and some other criteria. And so if company 483 goes bankrupt, guess what? You still have 499 other companies that are holding you up, and you're diversified across. And so that's the best way, in my opinion, to invest, because you can bet all your marbles on one company, but who knows? 20 years from now, are they going to be in existence? 10 years now, are they going to be in existence? Or is COVID going to take them out, or is some other world factor going to take them out? Or are they just going to release a product that destroys their business? You don't have control of that. So that's why it's good to diversify across dozens or hundreds of businesses in index funds. So I wouldn't play with single stocks, because that's just a risky bet that if you want to do 5 or 10% max of your investments, yes, you could do that in theory. But I've tried playing the single stock game in my life, and I've lost a lot of money doing it. So I've decided I'm not the next Warren Buffett. So let's stick to index funds.
That makes sense. Something that's been tried and true for so many years.
Yep. So, Warren Buffett thinks 95% of people should invest in index funds. So if Warren Buffett's saying that, there's probably a reason for it. But I think right now, that's like investment-wise and retirement-wise, that's definitely some steps you need to start taking so that you can set yourself up for success. And you said you wanted to talk about your kids too. So, and you wanted to help start investing or saving for your kids. But I think the issue with that is you need to have a solid foundation for yourself before you can help them financially in terms of investing or saving for them. And so you talked about one of your children looking to start working. And what you can do is, if you start learning and understanding what a Roth IRA is, how to invest into it, index funds, you can teach that to your child. And if you help your children starting at the age of 18 to start maxing out their Roth IRA every single year from 18 until 67, they would contribute about $342,000 to that account over the course of those almost 49 years. Do you know how much that money would turn into by the time they're 67 years old?
A few million, I'm sure.
$2.95 million. And so why do you need to help them financially in terms of funding their investment accounts when you can teach them this stuff and they can go out, they can work, and they can learn, hey, I need to invest my Roth IRA every single year, max it out. They'll retire a multimillionaire. Would that not help them 10 times more than even thinking about setting up a trust or worrying about them in terms of inheritance right now?
I could see your point. Yeah.
And because that, I mean, it's teaching someone how to fish, not just giving them a fish. And so you're helping them, teaching them lifelong skills about finances and helping build up their future and their life. And it's helping you too, because guess what? You're going to learn along the way too. So you're going to learn about yourself through these investment accounts, and it's only going to help them. And that's going to change your family, your future, their families, and their kids' kids, and their kids' kids' kids. So it's only going to help change your entire generation, your entire family tree by teaching them about finances as you go through it too.
That just reminds me of the phrase, what better way to learn than to teach?
Exactly. And same with budgeting is if you have in your budget every single month, yes, you have expenses for your kids. So maybe you have a discretionary spending section for your kids in your budget. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $75, maybe it's $100, whatever you're able to do while you're saving and investing. But that way you can teach your kids when they say, hey, Dad, I want to buy this item. You say, okay, great. You have $100 on the month to spend or $50. They're going to buy this $20 item. Okay, great. They can do it. They say, hey, I want to buy this $200 item. Well, hey, you don't have it in your budget this month, so you need to save up for it. And you can instill that by giving them $100 cash or $50 cash each month, whatever that looks like. And if they want to go eat out or if they want to go shopping, they have to physically spend that money at the cash register with you. That helps teach them financial principles, budgeting, and everything else in between. What do you think about that?
That's actually kind of what we've done with him.
Good. Because that helps teach them, instead of you saying, no, you can't buy this, you say, hey, you can buy it if you have the money to pay for it.
And sometimes I just go ahead and pay for it because, well, you've been doing good on this particular thing. So I'll treat you this time, but remember, it won't always be there.
Yeah, and there's definitely times and stuff you can do that too, but there's also times like the budgeting side. If you're teaching them, then that's going to help them to their life. I have no problem with treating them for certain things at times, but my main point is if you said you're starting to do that, just continue to do that, and that will help them understand finances throughout their life. So
sometimes I wish I'd have paid more attention when I was younger.
Exactly, and that's why you got to teach it to them now, help set them up for success, because that's only going to help. Every person wishes they learned about finances earlier. Everyone wishes that they understood investing and saving and budgeting earlier, and it's the only thing you can do is help your kids learn from your lessons and your mistakes. So
yeah, that's what I would hope for.
So one question on that, then, what do you think your biggest financial mistakes you ever made in your life are?
That's a good question. Man, I don't know. Probably not having a plan.
Not having a plan is a big mistake, because just waltzing way through life. I mean, I think right now, I don't know what your financial entire situation looked like the last 20 years since you're about 20 years old. But if you don't have a plan, it's very difficult to get where you want to go. You don't have a sense of direction. You don't have really a way to quantify or see how you're tracking on that plan. So I think that's my biggest thing for you right now is like moving forward towards retirement, towards saving and investing, building an emergency fund. Like you got to have a plan in place on what you need to do, these next steps. And if I was you, I mean, there's a few things I would do. First is budgeting, tracking every single expense. You know how much money you spend in different categories. Your budget is your plan every single month on how much you can allocate in different categories, whether it's shopping, whether it's eating out, whether it's groceries. That is your plan, basically. Number two is you need an emergency fund, whether it's the RV needs a repair or your car needs a repair. If you only have $500 in your bank account and you've got kids and you've got a car that might need $800 tires, it's going to be difficult to keep yourself from going into debt or struggling to afford certain emergencies if you don't have money in your bank account. And so what a lot of people suggest is building up an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. And so in your instance, I'd be $10,000 to $30,000, probably somewhere in that ballpark. And that way you have a cushion. So if you need new tires, you don't have to worry about that, like stressing about that week. You have new tires because you have an emergency fund that you've saved up for it. Or if there's a medical emergency in your family and you need to go to the hospital and have a bill from that, you can afford that. This isn't money to, hey, let's go shopping, let's go on a vacation, but it's money you set aside only in the case of an emergency. Like if you have a toilet that breaks in your RV or some of that nature, you have the funds to pay for it and you don't have to worry and stress about where's that money coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that emergency fund is basically your buffer between life and your money. And stuff happens in life. Things go wrong, things go right, things are expensive. And so emergency fund just helps protect you from going into debt. A lot of Americans will use credit cards as their emergency fund, but that puts them in a vicious cycle of debt and not being able to pay it off. And so that's why it's very important to have an emergency fund. Number 3 on this, I think you've done a great job compared to the average American staying out of debt. And so if I was you, I would continue to stay away from credit cards because it just allows you to spend money you don't have. You'll say, I'll pay it off in 30 days from now, and then life happens and you can't pay it off. Car debt, I'm not a fan of car debt, and you have no car debt right now, so let's not go finance a new fancy schmancy truck or a vehicle. No reason to do that. And you only have your RV right now, which is basically your mortgage, your home payment. So I just keep it as that and make sure we don't go into further debt, because if you don't want to be broke like the average American, then hey, let's not do things the average Americans do, which is taking out student loans, credit cards, car loans, etc., and overextending themselves. I do have a question on the RV note. Do you know what the interest rate is on that?
I want to say it's pretty high, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere between 12 and 18%, maybe 20. I don't remember.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's really high.
That might change a few things then. Okay.
I'm getting the real information here in a moment. I can't remember. I just know it was really high.
Okay, so that will, I would still, see, this is tough. So maybe in your situation, I wouldn't build up as big of an emergency fund. I'd still have an emergency fund because that's kind of still like your house mortgage payment. But after you have an emergency fund built up, maybe 3 months of expenses, instead of investing like in a taxable brokerage account, you're going to average 7% in the stock market every single year. And so instead of investing in a taxable brokerage account, you're probably better off paying off the RV debt, because if you're getting 12 to 20%, that's your interest rate somewhere in that ballpark, then you're getting a guaranteed 12% plus in return on your money by paying that debt off faster than investing the difference. So if you go invest at 7%, you're earning 7%, but if you're paying off 12% interest, then you're basically getting 12% return on your money versus 7%. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 18%. Yeah.
18. Wow. Okay. So if you're sitting at 18% interest on that, then you're better off paying that off than investing, because you're going to guaranteed 18% rate of return on your investment versus a 7% return.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what I'd be doing is, paying off the RV before investing. And I mean, you should be able to do that within, if you stick to a budget. I mean, right now you have $3,300 in monthly expenses, bringing in $4,500, somewhere in that ballpark. You should be able to pay it off in about a year and some change maybe. And then guess what? You have $500 back in your pocket every single month that you can be investing. That's your Roth IRA at that point. So you go hard paying off the RV, and then that RV payment turns into your Roth IRA investment every single month.
That turns into a nest egg. Yeah.
Yeah, which turns into a big nest egg and portfolio that you're building up. So
yeah.
And then once you pay off the RV, start investing in your Roth IRA, your 401k, getting that match, and then you can start setting yourself up for success. And then along the way, teaching your kids all about this. Teaching your kids about why you're paying off the RV because of the interest rate. Teach your kids about budgeting because you're budgeting. Walk your kids through that process. Teach your kids about the Roth IRA because you're investing in your Roth IRA. I think that's the biggest thing you can do to change your family tree, is just bringing your kids along the journey, helping them, teaching them, showing them how to do it, and just talking about finances openly as a family, because that's one of the issues in America is parents are very scared to talk about finances with their kids. Obviously, there's some information maybe you don't want to share with them, but in terms of like how you budget, what investing is, teach them to budget is definitely things that you can share with them that there's no harm in helping them learn those financial principles in their life.
So I have a question. Where would purchasing land fall into that?
So purchasing land for what purpose, I guess?
Well, one, as a place to put my RV, so I quit paying lot rent, and then I could use the land for whatever uses I desire, whether it be a little bit of commercial in there or whatnot. The land as a business in some way, shape.
How much would that land cost roughly?
Let's just say around 14,000 an acre.
Okay, and how many acres would you be trying to buy?
At least 12.
At least 12. Oh, that's a lot of land. Okay, that's a big purchase. $150,000 worth of land.
Yeah.
So you can go this about a few different ways. I would make sure you're budgeting. I would be the emergency fund definitely, and I'd probably be paying off the RV first because of the high interest rate.
Definitely get rid of the loan on the RV. Then whatever money I have left over after that, I could do other smart things with. Would land be considered one of those smart things, seeing as how land does nothing but appreciate in value for the most part?
Yes. Over long periods of time, it should appreciate. It also has odd added costs with property taxes that you'd have too with land.
That's why it's 12 acres, because 10 acres falls into the Homestead Act, and the other 2 acres where the homing would be, the housing.
So I think that'll come after the RV, and then I think you can start saying, okay, I'm going to start saving X amount of dollars a month for the land, and I'm going to start saving X amount of dollars towards
The nest egg.
yeah, and then the retirement and the nest egg. And then I think what you have to figure out, and I don't know. I mean, it's if you're putting the RV there, it's like what could you justify taking a loan out for that? I don't know. What would interest rates be on for land versus like a normal house, for example? Those are things you'd have to start researching and looking into. I wouldn't be a fan of, hey, let's go take out an 18% loan for land. But I think that's something you can start thinking about. But I think after you pay off the RV, then you can start looking at different options for that and where you want to go. It might be a 5-year time horizon. It might be 10 years. It might be 3 years. It might be 2 years. But that's something you can start thinking about once you get the RV paid off. You're starting to invest. And then you can start looking at where you want to go, the next big milestone you want to save up for. So I do that after you've, like you said, paid out the RV and start at least investing in maxing your Roth IRA every single year. Because the last thing I want you to do is, hey, let's go get a $150,000 loan for land at a 10% interest rate. You're going to be paying $15,000 a year basically in interest off of that. So you would just be hurting yourself at that point doing that. So it really just depends on what interest rates are, what the loan value would be, and how much you can save up before that time horizon. So
It wasn't done from a personal standpoint as much as it was from a business standpoint. That everything changed at that.
So again, I guess it comes down to what's the business making, what's the debt amount on it, how does that help the business grow? If it's not helping the business grow, then it's kind of pointless. When it comes to land, there's more risk, I guess, associated with it because it's not income producing. It's giving you space, but it's not like an income producing asset. So versus, hey, let's go, for example, we're taking out a $150,000 loan on a rental property that cash flows every single month. Okay, you can actually do napkin math to make sure, hey, this is going to pay me money versus taking out a loan for land for a business. It gives you space, but what income does it actually produce versus can you go rent a place and do that same thing? So that's a good question. As we get closer to that time period, I'd love for you to keep me posted, stay in touch with it and figure out, okay, we can come back on here and have a conversation about, hey, what does that look like? What is your plan and path for buying land? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? Price point wise, loan wise, if any loan, and what benefits does this land bring to you, to your family, to your business? Those types of questions. So, well, James, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've had from this experience?
From this podcast, planning is probably better than flying by the seat of my pants. Awesome. Thank you, Bailey, for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity to kind of go over some things with someone who's definitely more apt at it than I am.